Islam, and welcome to Moor's Heritage and History School. This is your host, Anna-Ida L., along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Aleph L.
Peace and love, family. Peace and love, Moors. Peace and love, Anna E. And very recent solstice to you.
Yes. And Rosmariah Bay.
Islam, peace and love to all, to everyone.
Islam is. And Cujo Adwa L.
Islam, peace and love.
All right. Islam. And as Ms. Raheem said, happy winter solstice to you all. This is a wonderful time of the year, especially for people far up north. It means that, and this is from my perspective, is that a beeping or?
I heard it. I don't know what that was about.
All right. It wasn't just me. This is the time of year where the sun goes below the horizon and sits there for 3 days and then on the 25th of December, it begins to rise once again. For me personally, the significance of that is the days begin to get longer as of the 25th, which in my mind and spirit means spring is coming, and so I'm as of the 25th, I'm looking forward to spring. I'm focusing spring. I'm seeing spring. I'm thinking spring. I'm breathing spring. I'm not thinking about what is right now. I'm looking forward to spring.
Right, so.
Well, that's how I make it through. But before I just want to let everybody know who is listening. Make sure and check in tomorrow at 7:30 for the Moor's Heritage and History School, because Rosmariah Bay is going to be doing an awesome astrology class, so you don't want to miss it. And she'll be elaborating on the winter solstice.
Well, you know what? With that, I'm not going to say anymore, because your what you said, it means to you personally is fine, because it's so true. And from this point, or from the 25th, when it kind of shoots out of that grave, they call it, you're going to gain 2 minutes of daylight every day. And I'll tell people to put something in their windowsill where the sun sets and rises, and they will recognize that it doesn't set at the same place that you gave 2 minutes of light every day. That's a test that you can see, and that is true. That is happening. But what it means for each of us right now in terms of this time of year and where we should be with being in sync with the vibrations that's happening, I'll expand on that tomorrow, because a lot of people have not considered what that means as we start this Capricorn. Capricorn actually leaves the summer solstice, begins the summer solstice, the winter solstice, excuse me. And it's a real lesson in that, dealing with reaping and sowing, and reaping enough to sustain you for the coming months while you would plant some more seeds that fertilize in the spring and give growth. A lot of people say, oh, it's just dead. But this is a very important time for what you reaped and sowed, and also for what's coming. So it's a consistent cycle. And before you know it, it'll be a new season again, It'll be here before you know it.
All righty. And with that, what we're going to do is get back into how we normally start the show. This is just a little sidebar, because it's tomorrow, and where we are in the energies. So big shout out to our family listening via internet. Thank you so much for joining us every week. Family listening over in Great Britain, peace and love. South Africa, Japan, the Netherlands, Venezuela, Brazil, Cuba, and the area that we have yet to connect with. Peace and love. Thank you so much for joining and listening and spreading the information where you are. Big shout out to our callers for calling in every week, filling up the phone lines before the show even begins. Thank you so much for joining us, conversing, sharing, building together as we all participate in uplifting fallen humanity. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to do our public announcement, and we do this every Tuesday. This is a listing of all Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage for income. They've been kidnapped by these private foreign corporations disguised as government, and in one fashion or another are making demands of income upon the people. And so we make this public announcement every Tuesday. So we begin with our sister Abkare Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee. And we say the purview of Tennessee because Tennessee is a union state and all corporations are under the purview of every state. Every union state is obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. We have Daoud Il under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Il and Kusu Rakush Bey under the purview of Missouri, Asar Fatah Amin Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Taylor Il, Cherry Thorne Bay, J. Michael Brooks Bay, Joseph Kennedy Il, Kushamir Bunch Il, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yasin Khalik Alamin Il, Michael Curry Bay, and Michael Curry Bay, all held under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Il under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Il and Crystal Il, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Teron Fisher Il, Martisa Vion Il under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Il Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Il under the purview of Virginia, Bomani Abidwil Il, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo of Valle Juarez Il, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, and Patricia Bay and her infant baby, as well as Malik Il Bay, all kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. All right, and that is it for the Moors who have been kidnapped and being held hostage for income by these foreign corporations. And on a little side note, I just want to make a comment. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this, but I have to make mention of this because to me, it's quite interesting. I just read a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage for income. And shortly before this broadcast, I got a call. Parents of Eric Gardner and Michael Brown was in Switzerland testifying on the murder of their child. Let me rephrase that. Testifying on the torture and subsequent murder of their child. These people have no ill or bay on their appellation. Yet, they are doing exactly what we as Moors need to be doing. I just read a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage. And what we as a people, we need to do is, instead of trying to, claim land or stuff, we need to get together and do the same thing that these two Moorish families with no ill bay on their appellation have done. We need to be just that serious, because we got all these Moors that are being held hostage in these prisons for income. One person is not going to be able to go and write a writ on behalf of all of these people. What we need to be doing is somebody knows these Moors, and somebody is directly connected to these Moors. And it can't be wallowing around in the subordinates, which is the United States of America. All right? We can't be wallowing around in the subordinates, asking them for this, that, and the other, when we are the ones that granted them the rights and liberties to come over here. That's just backwards, and that's why we got a long list of Moors and even more that we don't know about who are being held for income, because we are wallowing around in policies and procedures of the United States of America. We need to wake up and stop doing that. These two Moorish families don't have an ill or a bay on their appellation, and they went all the way to the United Nations World Court in Switzerland to present their argument, and we got Moors here trying to navigate through the policies and procedures of the United States of America subordinate corporation. It's ridiculous.
But let me ask you something. I hear you, and absolutely 100% on that, because, as you were saying that they don't have ill or bay, but they're at the United Nations. The key word is nation. So my concern with that would be that
is there anybody here beeping? I'm sorry.
I don't know where you're from. It must be something you got, some electronic thing you got plugged in.
No, it's not. I don't have anything.
I do hear it. It sounds like
Bluetooth.
Yeah, like a Bluetooth.
I'm not on Bluetooth.
That was me.
Oh, that was
all right. The guilty party.
All right, I'm sorry. Continue.
Right. He's just trying to pinpoint what it was. That
was my bad.
Yeah, all right. What I wanted to say is, if you go into the United Nations, you're making a very good point. If you go into the United Nations, the first thing that anybody dealing with nations is going to look at is, what is your nationality? Because United Nations does not deal with anybody that doesn't have a nationality. Now, besides that, now I'm not saying they're not sitting down and talking. Besides that, I think what's more important, and maybe this will bring home for us to understand what's being said here in regards to the United Nations and any activity that will come from the World Court or like that, the first thing they're going to look at is, what is your national constitution? See, the national constitution dictates what ought to be happening with these types of matters. So at best, I trust that it will at least prompt the people to start enforcing the Constitution, which is the supreme issue for any nation of people. We have the supreme law, which is the national constitution, the American national constitution. So you'd be going to the United Nations, they're going to gauge everything based off of the national constitution, which of course covers, everyone being treated with preserving their liberties and their rights and not getting beat down in the street by corporate security guards. The reason why it's so extended and this is happening so long, aside from the fact that they are the Roman soldiers in cloak, is the fact that the people themselves, regardless to whether they are aware they're Moors or not, have not enforced a national constitution. But then how could you enforce a national constitution effectively if you don't know about nations? And this is why Prophet Noble Ali said, link yourself back to the family of nations. So let's say someone goes over there, such as these people that are there now. The first question they're going to be asked is, well, what's your nationality? And now, at best, what would they say? They certainly can't say we're black, Negro, colored. That can't happen because that's we know someone who's already gone to the United Nations, with a tour and asking questions, and they said they see African Americans, Negroes, coloreds, and blacks as displaced people. Therefore, there's not much you can do with that, but what can happen, and I don't want to see that happen again, we have already been compromised. You can go and we can be compromised again, therefore not really effectuating the national constitution for natural people as well, and and honoring ourselves and our mothers and fathers who established it to secure, protect, and preserve the liberties, not just Moors, but if everyone followed that, no one would be molested. So I'm just curious as to how one can reach out to the United Nations or any national intercourse, without, one, them looking for what's your national constitution, and two, without declaring some sort of nationality. I mean, I don't see how that works.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You know what? I hear you, and I just made mention that, and you're absolutely correct. Nationality is the order of the day, but what I was trying to get across is that, look, we got Moors galore around here with titles on, which affirms your nationality, or I should say affirms you declaring for yourself your nationality. And instead of us wallowing around in the policies and procedures of the United States of America, we need to be more proactive and do the same, because as we are the Moorish nation, and only the World Court can hear our issue.
Right.
Only the World Court can hear our issue. So why are we trying to go through policies and procedures of the United States of America Corporation, the subordinate, to resolve our issues? That's just, and then, it's just backward, really. It's just, come on, we really got to wake up. Really. But this is also a part of our today's discussion broadcast. And it goes in, and I think it's so aptly titled, and I know this is in the 101, I just didn't have my 101 with me to give you the number, but why did Prophet Noble Drew Ali come? And the answer is to teach you to be yourself. And in addition to study. This is imperative, because if you don't know who you are, you will think that some corporation or foreign people can give you what is already yours by birthright. Why do you, quote, believe, end quote? Because, see, if you're still in the believe stage, you ain't did enough studying. Why do you believe? You need to ask for that which is already yours by blood. Lack of study resulting in not knowing who you are and just what your power and authority is. As if someone other than your mother gives you your birthright, i.e., your title to your ancestral vast estate. Now, I gotta say this. You know, this came to my attention. You know, because we get these emails all the time. You know, and we look over them, and sometimes it just really blows me away. I'm perplexed. Okay, I'm just perplexed because back in 2008, when I read the writings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it was simple. I didn't understand why it was so confusing for people. It was absolutely clear as day. It just took somebody with a reasoning mind to read it and get it. And here we are in 2015, and still it's as though the prophet's simple words, and he didn't even write you a booklet. He wrote short, to the point. You know, you don't even really got to try for what was he trying to say. He said it. And still, we got people who don't get it and are, you know, garnering to them massive amounts of Moors. Come on along, because I got the answer. And you look at what they're promoting as the answer, and it is 1,000% wrong. I got the answer. I got the answer. Come on with me. I got the answer. Look here. And you're trying to tell, because I don't want to call no names, but
you don't have to call names. Just the concept.
You want to, you know. I know, and I'm like, once again, people do not get that you cannot go. Look. Let me just say this, because see, I see where this is going. Back when the prophet went down to Cuba, it is said that he went and got the quote title to the land, and through some dirty Moors, the title ended up in Switzerland at the United Nations. So now everybody thinks they got to go to the Switzerland United Nations to get their land back. Hold on, let me rephrase that. To get the title to the land back. Let me tell you something. I'm going to say this. See, the prophet, he said study, study, study for a reason. He said study, study, study so that you will know, not believe, so that you will know. Because if you read the prophet's work, running around here with eels and babes, feathers and turbans, and if you read his work, then you would know the title is in the Il-Bay-Day and Ali. And that is why if you go to any one of these foreign corporations who profess to have a title that ain't nobody ever seen, Merce has all the titles. Where they at? They sold them. Really? They bundled and sold all the titles? And nobody has ever seen one. Go on the internet, you can Google and find out about Christopher Columbus and his mistresses and who slept with who and what, but you can't find one title.
Because it doesn't exist. In the ill and the bay.
Exactly. You are never going to find a title in no paper document because the title is in the Il-Bay-Day and Ali. And guess what? That means the title is in the blood.
Yeah. Oh. But see, there's some people, whoever they are, really matters not. It's not an attack on them at all. It's a true analysis of lack of study, forget lack of study, of lack of really knowing who we are. This is proposed that some guy is going to the United Nations Treasury or something to get them to return the title to the land, to the Moors land here, America, to Moors. Now, hold on. So are they going to give this guy the title or titles? Or is it some piece of paper that, like you just said, would get lost, stolen, corrupted in the hands of one person for them? No, that's a joke. And if anybody falls for that, it's what our people do. They always chasing after something else without recognizing that there is no one on the planet that has a physical handwritten title to the land, to the Moorish land. That is so exclusive. Oh my God, that is so not.
Possibly
the title is in you. So all I'm saying is this, and I rest the floor. If people believe that, think about it. It would be in the hands of somebody. And who would that somebody be when this is about your title, which is in the blood, like you said, and it's about allodial, which means there's nobody that could ever offer a title in that respect. And it's about the fact that being part of your birthright can't be bought, can't be sold, can't be transferred. So no one can buy, sell, or transfer. That's why they recently found out when they thought that, the so-called, what they want to call Indians, which weren't Indians because this isn't India, the natives that which are us, that they bought land for beads. You can't buy it. You can't sell it, and you can't transfer it. There is no person that's holding those titles. The only thing that's being held is the minds of the people because they're still in a mental slavery and they haven't claimed their estate, which is in chapter 47. You shall gain back your heritage and your estate in a conflict that cannot be told in words. And trust me, it's not in a piece of paper that somebody somewhere is holding. See, that's, again, compromise. It's not even compromise because no one can have a greater title than that, a greater position by claiming that which is your ancestral, which can be bought, sold, or transferred. So I see this, that if people are going to go on that bandwagon, like they go on every other bandwagon that comes out, and rush, we're going to go do this, rush, we're going to go do that, instead of sitting down and being who they are. Just be who you are and honor your mothers and fathers by name and by principle. Then here we are once again. Everybody now is talking about how, look out for the Moors. They're going to get their stuff. Well, the prophet said no matter what it looks like, it's going to be in the hands of the Moors. We already know that. That's already clear. But again, if you really understand what this is, you would know for a fact that there is no being on the planet that has something written. And what you were saying about the Pan American conference, and Cujo might have some more inside information on that. He didn't go and get some mandate. He didn't need to get a mandate. He just made it clear and declared it for that we are who we are, just as we're doing today, and that this is our ancestral estate. That's it. That's all. People actually think that there's some title and some mandate that has a time limit and or is in the hands of somebody. I mean, if that was the point, if that was the case, there would be no need for you to do anything. Really, because this is about your estate that can't be, once again, and lastly, I'll say it one more time, it can't be bought, it can't be sold. So even if you think it was sold, it's not. Even if you think it was bought, it wasn't. And it cannot be transferred. So there's nobody that can transfer anything to anybody in regards to the titles of the Moors. It is in your blood. It is in the L and the Bay. Islam. Just claim it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, look, there is no way, because, there is no way that anybody, I can't say it enough, there is no, read the prophet's work.
That's it, that's all.
Read the prophet's work, all right? People who are running after these various modern European processes, you need to read the prophet's work, all right? And read it, and don't read it just once. Read it over and over and over again, because it will meet you wherever you are. And if you're on the surface, it will meet you right there. But if you want to go deep, you need to read it over and over and over again. I mean, do this. Read it over and over again for a year. Then come and talk to me and tell me how somebody who doesn't even have an ill or a bay on their appellation has gone and asked the United Nations to give the Moors back their land when the United Nations and the rights of indigenous people and the decolonization has already done this.
They've already recognized it already.
They already recognized it.
I'm sorry, that's a very good point, but in the rights of indigenous people, these things have already been acknowledged, completely acknowledged by the United Nations. Completely. Yeah, exactly. We just have to walk into it and declare it and be it. That's why the prophet said, I've come to teach you to be yourself. So that means that you don't go to the United Nations who's already collectively agreed or affirmed because you didn't need their permission. They just affirmed that which was already. They said, look, we already know. It's up to us to be who we are and stop asking permission because it's already been acknowledged through rights of indigenous people. I mean, the rights of indigenous people really kind of lays a lot of specifics out, quite frankly, almost every arena of your life, including those who are dealing with, taking children from your house. I mean, I would be standing, if I was the mother in that position, I'd be standing on that like it was life or death. But it's right there, already established. It's just a matter of recognizing that you are the Aboriginal and indigenous people and then acting or being that instead of looking at those rights that are given to you but then not claiming it. Like you can't claim to be Aboriginal and indigenous and then be Negro, colored, and black. They don't mix. It can't happen. It's not written for Negro, colored, and black. It's not, because we're not that coin in the brand. That's not an honor of mothers and fathers at all. So you look at the rights of indigenous people, these things from the United Nations, it's already been affirmed, not permission, but affirmed as truth. They're like, hey, we with you. Go ahead, do your thing. And you're not doing your thing because you're still looking to ask permission because you're in a mental slavery, which is what we all had to come out of. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali recognized that as well when he was on the scene doing this, the study on the subject matter. He said, you're in a mental slavery. That's I come to take you out of your mental slavery, So, it just dawned on me like, really, it really has already been determined. We just have to act on it individually and then collectively. And we're not doing collectively because if we were collective, a lot of the stuff that's going on would not be going on already. But I don't know. I think, Cujo, you wanted to make a comment about what I was saying, I think, on that some of that inside information about that mandate or something that he was supposed to have gotten or whatever that was.
Oh, no, what I just wanted to put out there was when you do your research on the Pan-American conferences, the one that he was at is the one that's missing in the records, regardless of who you talk to, where you go.
You said that is mentioned or isn't mentioned?
Yeah, that's the one that's missing.
Yes,
like out here, they have no record of the 8th Pan-American Conference. They have all the others. From microfilm to books on it to whatever. But that Pan-American Conference that, claims Noble Drew Ali went to it, that one's missing. So you come to your own conclusion, And then with regard to the mandate, if Noble Drew Ali was telling Moors, we are a nation, where the mandate come from? Like who and then how Europeans get it? Like how they get in the hands of Switzerland? Switzerland's not over here. You know how far Switzerland is from here? That some mandate that Noble Drew Ali got from a Pan-American conference is in Switzerland. Pan-American does not include Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Pan-American. It's like you said, think and save yourself. Because if you think that listening to people is going to save you, you got some more stuff coming that you're not going to expect.
Exactly. I just want to say, my concern is this will be another thing that Moors will go on a bandwagon about all around chasing their tail instead of just declaring their nationality and being who they are and recognize that it's already done.
So, well, I mean, a lot of it is because people want something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
People want something. They don't just want to learn the truth about their nationality and birthrights to know it. They want to know it so that they can apply it and get something.
Get something.
There's nothing
that they already have, really.
Yeah, that they already have, and there's nothing to get. because every generation is going to say, "Oh, this isn't for us. This is for the future generation." Every generation.
That's right. That's posterity right there.
The theme of the Moorish movement is that it's for the young and unborn, which means it's perpetual. It'll last forever. Then, if it's for the young and unborn, because there's always going to be young and unborn.
That's right. That's right. Posterity. The posterity means children's children forevermore. That's what it means.
Right.
I think
and we're already the children. We're the children of our ancestors. So we should be getting this. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, and that's the problem.
Here's the thing, and this is why the prophet said, study, 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 because some of your own wearing turbans and pheasants will put you back in slavery.
No way.
Put you back in slavery.
Not right
now. Here's the thing.
Said that.
And here's the thing. Now, he also said that, and this is not literal. This is figuratively speaking. He also said that I can count on one hand, fingers left over, the amount of Moors basically that's going to make this transition. That's not literal. That's figuratively. But what he is saying is that, and then another thing he said that one of these days, he said you're going to send your children to the store, and they're going to come home and they're going to say, "Ma, I saw a man." Now, all of those things say study, 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 because if you don't, the numbers are going to drastically be reduced. Drastically reduced. Not because of some, and this is, I said this years ago, I don't think it's going to be because of some disaster or anything. I think that it's going to be because too many Moors is following what somebody says without doing any investigation, and they're going to end up on the damn moon and unable to come back to Earth, and that's going to be the slave. That's going to be the new slave plantation, the moon or something, because our people refuse to study. Our people refuse to look. Stop running. Take your time. We got all the time in the world to find ourselves and fix this thing. Really, because you know why? Because there is no such thing as time. So you got all the time in the world to fix this thing and find yourself. Stop trying to get stuff. Prophet said,
we already have.
Wait. I just want to say this. Yes, you do. And the prophet said, I gave you enough to save a nation. Now go out and save yourself. That means, look at what he's saying. Study, study, study. Gave you enough to save a nation. Save yourself. It's only going to be a handful of people with fingers left over. I saw a man. You look at what he is saying. These little bites of information speak volumes, but only if you're listening. What else did he say? My sheep hear my voice. He also said those who were with me then are with me now. Mm-hmm. So now if you're running behind policies and procedures of the United States of America, instead of under your great seal government, you might not be hearing. You might not be the sheep hearing the voice of the prophet. It's some other voice you're listening to, because it ain't the prophet, because nothing that I have read that the prophet wrote said go and look up the policies and the procedures of the United States of America to subordinate and follow it. Nothing.
Sure.
Well, I just want to say this. As far as, counting 5, like you said, it wasn't literal, but each one of us can look around in our circle of friends and family or whatever, and I'm sure that we can't count more than 5 people in that immediate, circle that we know is really on point with the concepts and with this information. And I think that's, like you said, it wasn't literal, but literally, I think that we could all apply that as he did and said, one hand, and with fingers left over, and each one of us can do the same thing. Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Islam. That's true. And I think, if I may add on, there's so much to discuss on this particular subject. But one of the main things is really understanding our nationality, like on the home level and on the international level. Our international standard. As far as the law of nations is concerned, I just want to pull the references on nationality and in the title to the land or state, which is the Ills and Bays. First off, when we speak of Noble Drew Ali, for the most part, you have to think nationality with that. It's just like, it's almost impossible to think of Noble Drew Ali and not think of nationality and what it actually means. Among other things, studying. There's a lot of different concepts in literature and old literature, whereas you'll see everything is interrelated back to your nationality and birthright. But, like, for example, for us to take our place amongst the affairs of men, nationality has to be at the forefront. With this being said, it's vital to study law and international law and have an understanding of it, what makes us unique as far as our political affairs being within the territorial jurisdiction of our ancestral estate, which we could go on a broader note and say that's the whole planet Earth. But like, for example, today as well, the situation with Sandra Bland, they decided not to indict or not to charge the policy enforcers that was involved with that situation. When we take a look at international law, yes, like, she is a divine being, but knowing that on the international law, you have to translate that to nationality. Whereas I quote from a treatise by Lasse Oppenheim and Ronald Roxburgh, page 461, International Law, a treatise, volume 1. And it says, as far as the law of nations is concerned, apart from morality, like we're talking separate from morality, the law of nations, there is no restriction whatever to cause a state to abstain from maltreating to any extent individuals, or translation, those who do not have a nationality. So in the law of nations, without a nationality, you know, you have no standing, which has been emphasized more than just this reference right here, way more than just this reference. But I would like to correlate as well back to the title to the land. It's something that I mentioned on Sons of Allah past Thursday as far as constitutional psychopathic inferiority. This is a treatise on private international law or the conflicts of law by John Westlake. And they go into territorial jurisdiction and the laws in the jurisdiction of the cities, which is the place, SITUS. And they're talking about minorities and lunacy. And here it says, in the transfer of land by conveyance, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we understand that an ancestral estate cannot be transferred. It's unalienable. But, again, without the nationality, there's no connection on the international level. So it says here on page 77, it says, nor again is there any principle to prevent the lex situs, which means the law of the place, from accepting the res judicata as a res judicata, a sentence in which the owner of immovables has been found lunatic by his personal judge, not by a personal judge, but by his personal judge. So when it talks about owner of immovables, now I know we could elaborate more on the word owner, whether that's proper jurisdiction or not. But looking at immovables, the land is immovable. So for a nation, that would be considered immovable inheritance, or you know what I mean? I almost want to avoid the word saying immovable property, but I don't think I'll be wrong for saying that. So the land is something that cannot be moved, that the Europeans cannot take. Only thing they could take is the concept of our connection to it. But like Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, this man said, you know, I trust that my people will find the true and divine way. But I'm going to go on. It goes into page 78. It says, if the lex situs or law of the place has an express provision on either point, it is conclusive. If not, analogies and arguments must be sought, which can only be discussed in connection with the general topics of personal law and jurisdiction, which is personal jurisdiction, basically, for which, therefore, I reserve, or that he reserves, the authorities as far as his position, stating in the meantime that he knows of no English decision, right? So this is a European, but in international law, you know, we're talking about the law of nations, right? So he says it must farther be observed here that the acceptance of a foreign judgment of lunacy or minority will only conclude the capacity of the person and not necessarily lead to recognizing the authority of foreign curators over the land. All right, so even if they declared somebody a lunatic or a minority, though we're not, all that has to do is with the condition or state of mind of the person. It does not recognize authority of foreign curators over the land. All right, so this is an international law, meaning even if a Moor was declared to have constitutional psychopathic inferiority, you know, foreigners still don't have jurisdiction over the land. That's what I walked away from with that, because they're foreigners and they really have no jurisdiction. Now, granted, you know, we have the responsibility to help look out for our people who can't look out for themselves, but at the same time, you know, it never equates to Europeans actually having possession of the land or jurisdiction. As far as titles go, I just wanted to give this reference, not for anybody to run with, but to actually research. Like, actually go ahead and look this up in as many places as you can. But there's a book called A Dictionary of American and English Law, a full collection of maxims, Volume 1, by Stuart Rapalje and Robert L. Lawrence from 1888. And I think Brother Casanova for this reference here, but I was looking into this dictionary, and there's a definition of droitural action, and that's droitural, droitural action. And it says this is one founded on the right to determine the title to land as distinguished from possessory action. All right, so to go to foreigners, you know, and bring an action, you would have to consider what type of action would you be bringing to determine the title to land, whereas the Il Beg Day, Al, and Ali titles of our foremothers and forefathers, those are unrebuttable titles to the land, you know, and like you said, it's definitely in the blood. So with that being in mind, you know, it is important to note that being in your own proper self, you know, definitely has a lot to do with the title to the land, bearing the appellation of your foremothers and forefathers. That's what I wanted to correlate with that. Also, I wanted to correlate from our Institutes of International Law, Volume 1, by Richard Wildman. They go in to possession here, which, you know, I'm still like, I don't know, but this is what it says on page, on page 69 here. It goes into possession. It goes into possession. And here it says, continuance of possession by mere intention is a fiction of civil laws. It has no place in the law of nations. It is not to be understood, however, says Bankerschuk, that possession cannot be continued unless a man carry his movables on his back like a tortoise, or be in a state of perpetual incubation on his land like a hen upon her eggs. The possession of land is continued so long as the quote-unquote owner continues to use it for the purpose to which it is naturally adapted. If he build on it, if he sow it and reap the crops, if he fence it and exclude others from possession, if he uphold his buildings by these and the like means, his possession is continued in his absence. So, and that, what I got from that was the fact that, yes, your possession can be continued, you know, in your absence, in the true possessor, but it has to be an intention to possess, you know, and without that intention to possess, it's implied abandonment, and therefore, you know, what comes in is the law of occupancy, abandonment, etc. But declaring your nationality, you know, it's also letting them know that the true possessors of the land are awake. Though we might not be in possession, you know, we are the true possessors. And the title is in the El Beg Day, Al and Ali, and this definitely makes a lot of difference on that particular subject of title to the land. So again, you know, there's nobody who can strip you from your descendant nature, and that also includes, you know, inheritance or success, or you know, being the lineal descendants of the posterity that was spoken of also in the Constitution. But again, as was emphasized, you know, aside from morality in the law of nations, stateless persons or stateless people are not going to be considered to have standing. And it's a true fact and reality, which is why even when you look at, you know, accusatory instruments or you know, quote-unquote probate instruments, things of this nature, you know, they always are trying to label a Moor black, Negro, colored, subject, all of these different things. They use this language. We're not just saying it to say it. Like, they use that type of language, which is in fact, you know, wrong in its true and divine aspect, it does not apply to us. So, you know, we're not Negroes, we're not black, we're not colored, we're not subjects, because subjects and subjugation go hand in hand. And as was mentioned, you know, as long as war is on, they're going to try to recognize subjugation, you know, or this is why they make the claim that some of us are subjects, you know, and then we got to fight from that. So that's just what it is. And another thing I just wanted to add on, this goes back to the title to land and respect for quote-unquote states. I can't say I agree with this totally, but I think this is what comes into play when we don't claim our nationality and they rock out with abandonment. So it says here, Institutes of International Law, Volume 1, it says the title, which is state. Now, we know quasi-national domiciles cannot have the title to land, you know, they get grants, etc. But it says the title which the state has to its territories may be acquired in three ways. First, by occupancy. Secondly, by cession. Thirdly, by prescription. Now, when you look up the definition of custom, it's a difference between prescription and usage or whatnot. So we already know that the prescription is not in alignment with the ancestral permission. So that doesn't really apply. Again, look up the definition of custom in your Henry Campbell Black's Law, 4th edition, and read the fine print where it breaks down usage and prescription. So for the abandoned, you know, aspect, it says first, occupancy is the only original mode by which title to territory can be acquired. Now, this is the thing. Receiving your descent, your inheritance, and acquiring property are two different things. Like, you can acquire any piece of property that you want. Like, if you want a new shirt, you could go to the store and acquire it. Somebody could give that to you as a gift, and you still have acquired it. You know, that's an acquisition. But as far as descending, you know, that's all in the blood. That has everything to do with nationality. So if the nationals abandon their inheritance, somebody is going to try to acquire it, whether by force and fear or by simple confession of abandonment, you know, or not being connected to land, in fact, indeed, in mind and everything. So all of these things correlate to me as far as title is concerned. And, you know, again, my position on it is the same as yours, is that it's simply, it's only in, you know, the blood in the titles El Bey, Al and Ali, which is why Noble Drew Ali was saying, you know, they formed their trust, our foremothers and forefathers formed their trust based on names of issues and names formed by, you know, their forefathers. So, you know, that's the ancestors, the inheritance. So, again, you know, all of that correlated to me with the particular topic, title to the land, you know, and that's what I wanted to share with the family. And therein I yield the floor. One more thing, excuse me. The definition of ancestral action, and this is out of Stuart Rapalji and Robert L. Lawrence, a dictionary of American and English law, a full collection of maxims, volume 1. And the definition of ancestral action, it says, is one brought for the recovery of land in which the plaintiff relies on the seizing or possession of his ancestors. All right, ancestral action. So again, if you're going to go to a world court, what type of action are you going to bring? Is it an ancestral action? Is it a joyful action? Is it a class action? Like, what type of action are you bringing? With that being said, I definitely, respectively, build the floor. Islam?
Islam. Before we continue, I'm not sure, but there is a scraping coming over the air. I'm not sure who it is. So check your mic. Also, I'm still hearing it.
Oh no, I'm muted real quick.
Who is that that's scraping?
Wait. No. I think it was Miz. He said he just. I think that was you, Miz.
Miz?
I definitely wasn't, because it happened again once I muted myself.
Okay,
it's on now.
All right.
There was a serious scraping, like somebody's going through papers. Who do I to fess up this time?
One other thing we wanted to put on the table as well is this thing that people. Okay, I know we put it on the website. People are taking their proclamation or name correction. I know this for a fact because I had somebody send me a photocopy of the name correction and proclamation that was taken to some county clerk. Okay, and here's the thing. Number one, people, Moors, you are private. If you can go to our brothers and sisters around the world and show me where they are doing ridiculousness like that, I might pause. I ain't going to say it's right. I might pause. But no true Moor who knows themselves is ever going to be publishing their private and confidential information. I don't care that you're not going to, you don't go, you just don't. Look, first of all, counties are corporations. So that's like taking your proclamation and name correction, which proclaims your nationality, to Walmart headquarters and giving it to them. All right? And then because you are supposed to know law and you just demonstrated that you don't know law, Walmart says, okay, we're going to take your paperwork and you got to give us 100 notes. Because, come on. Thieves, if you show that you lack the appropriate information, thieves will rob you. Because you're supposed to, it's not about, okay, I want to put my information on the record. What record? If you have done any research at all, look up the definition of county and city. They tell you they are a municipality. Right in the definition, they say they are not a court of record. But you're going to go there to put your stuff on the record at a place that is not a record, not a court of record. All right? That's shown.
As well,
go ahead.
Don't forget as well that the real record is Akashic, not a building.
Thank you.
Oh.
Look it, and your Akashic records is based on what you do, your works. What works are you doing that is creating a record? All right,
and what you say, and what you say also,
and what you say, yes, and then you want to go to a foreign modern European foreign modern European subordinate. All right? No, that's not what, see, you don't go to the tail. Moors don't deal with the tail. Moors deal with the head. That's why you go to the heads of state. That would be the United States Secretary of State. That would be the United Nations. That would be the World Court. That would be the International Criminal Court.
But let me ask you something.
These are the places that you would go. You're not going to go to... Go ahead.
Before you go on, make something real clear here. Are these people, because I know at one point they were actually, which was really ludicrous, they were actually taking the papers after they were sealed with the Great Seal, and then taking them somewhere else subordinate to have them accounting notarized as if they were authenticating. So there's two things going on here. When you say this is why we go to the state,
and some people do, some people will do it before they get it sealed, and some people will do it. Now, a lot more people are getting it done after the documents are sealed by the Great Seal, under the Great Seal government. They will then take it to the Secretary of State and get the apostille seal on it. Haven't even looked up the word apostille.
Yeah, right. That's just a glorified notary. That's really what all that is. But I want to make clear, because I think it may be unclear, that when we say we send to the Secretary of State, that is for public notice only, not for them to apostille it, not for them to authenticate it with their
acknowledge. No.
The point I want to make, though, but the point I want to make here is to make sure that it's clear, before you continue to go on, that, going to the state going to the heads of state, Secretary of State, like that, and giving them a public notice is just saying we're awake, we're here, like that. That's all the publishing that is necessary. But then this other thing that some people have been doing is thinking that the papers are not authenticated unless the county, which is even lesser than that, inferior, notarize it. And then they also were thinking that they have to go to the Secretary of State to get it notarized, which is what apostille is. So we want to say that the notarizing of your papers after they've got the government seal on them is absolutely a no-no for any of those two reasons. The only reason that we go there is to put them on notice, because that's the Secretary of Heads of State duty, both domestic and foreign. Like a lot of times people think that the Secretary of State only deals with foreign affairs. They don't realize, because they didn't look up the definition of their duty, that they deal with domestic also. And since this is our home, this is our domicile, we're only putting them on notice that we're no longer Negroes, coloreds, or black. We never were, really. And that we're alive and so on like that. And we give a notice speech. And I'm saying that because so many people are still in the mental slavery, and they think they have to ask permission. And then remember, I think we had a class or discussion where they're looking for, well, I sent my papers, but I haven't heard back from them. There's nothing to hear back from. It's putting them on public notice. So I just want to make that clear of the distinctions between the two and why we use it.
All right. The other thing is,
somebody's still scraping. I don't know who, but they are just scraping, going through books.
Well, I hear it as well, and I don't know who it is.
All right.
Oh, seems to have stopped. The proper way to send out your name correction and proclamation is you make a colored copy of the original. You never, ever, ever send your originals out. You make a colored copy and you send that via registered mail. I'm sorry, not registered mail, certified mail. Or, if you want to do registered mail, you can. But certified mail is sufficient because really and truly, the only reason that you're doing certified mail is so that you can have a tracking, because first-class mail is guaranteed mail. So
look,
you
quit
could do
doing
first
scraping.
class.
You need to start doing the process of elimination.
Hold on a minute. All righty. There's
I was
only
muted.
Who
I
was
muted
that?
myself.
Okay.
It's not me.
That. All right. All right. Mute back your phone. Cujo, can you mute your phone, and can you mute your phone?
I thought you could mute it all.
Oh, I could, but I can. But then, if you want to say something, I'm not going to know if you want to say something.
Okay. All right.
All righty. All right. So, good. So, the publishing or making public the name correction and proclamation in a newspaper, it is not something that we promote, for the same reason. You do not put your private and confidential information out into a public arena where anyone can start to gather or / do an investigation on you and gather information about you. You don't do that. This is why you are private. And if you think that people are not gathering information about the Moors who are proclaiming their nationality, think again. Okay, we got people like Finch and Flowers out there just, out there trying to collect information about the Moors to do injury to us. So don't fool yourself. I'm not saying be paranoid. I'm just saying, look, you're private for a reason. So if you breach your privacy, then that means that all manner of, you open the door for all manner of public crap to come in. You don't want to do that. All right? There's no reason for anybody to put any of their private and confidential information out into the public. That there's no reason ever. And there's just no reason. There's a great distinction between being private and being public. Public servants are public. People are private. End of discussion. All right? So we need to do a little bit more thinking and know where we are, the climate that we're in, and also some of the things that are taking place and is going to continue to take place. We need to be protective of ourselves, first and foremost. So, and I'm not saying that I'm just saying there's no reason for you to put your private and confidential information on blast like that for anybody to see. There is a process here. You have certain places that you're going to notify, certain places in high officials. Those are the only places that you're going to be notifying of your declared nationality. That's it. And and whether you notify all 8 of them is still your choice, because you don't have to. But those are the only areas, and you're going to do it through the United States Postmaster by the Universal Postal Union. I mean, come on, this is called strategy. We should not have to come into this type of a public forum and put a portion of our strategy out into the open because people are just not following the directions that are crystal clear on the RV Bay Publications website. Come on. We got to do better than that. These modern Europeans have it out here that we don't know how to read, we don't know how to follow directions, and we don't know how to comprehend. We need to begin to turn that around. Granted, we've been mentally conditioned to be that way, but it is now for us to turn it around and go back to the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers. Islam?
True.
And stop thinking that somebody's going to do it for you.
Exactly. So, and if we have more comments, we got like 40 minutes left to the live internet feed. If anybody else wants to add to that, you go ahead. If not, we can start taking some callers. Go ahead.
No, I just had one more reference to give. This is again from a treatise on private international law or conflicts of laws by John Westlake, and it's a portion where they talk about domicile on page 76. And I just wanted to quote real quick this particular information. Now, from our national standpoint and in international law, we understand that the heir is her. It's the woman, mother, right? Hands down, no debate. It is what it is. That's just the law of nature. Here it says this: where the question has been as to the meaning of the word heir in the disposition of land subject to a particular custom of inheritance. Now, I just wanted to note the language right there, where it says in the disposition of land subject to peculiar custom, right? Because earlier I was mentioning how he was referencing prescription, and I said look up custom too. You know, here it kind of like sets the tone for that distinguishment. You know, where it says where the question has been as to the meaning of the word heir in the disposition of land subject to a peculiar custom of inheritance, we could say that for us it would be succession through the mothers of the family, and if there were none, et cetera, available to inherit, then by primogeniture it would go to the eldest son, if that were the circumstances, right? So these customs of inheritance, but it says, as gavelkind, the interpretation has sometimes been accorded to that custom, and once has followed the general law in opposition to it. In the French case mentioned by Bolognese, the law of the disponent's domicile was held to decide whether technical words implied or did not imply substitution. And this is also Burge's general rule as to interpretation. We must indeed carefully bear in mind that interpretation does not raise question of law, but of fact, and certainly in what is neither technical nor relates directly to the land, the domicile seems to afford the most probable clue. And I'm going to leave that right there. This, again, is a treatise on private international law or the conflict of laws by John Westlake. So when you talk about that peculiar custom of inheritance for Aboriginal people, domicile definitely has a lot to do with that, because France doesn't allow you to establish a domicile without consent of the quote-unquote, and I quote, unquote, authorities, you know. But, however, in international law, domicile is a key, very big key part of that. And why understanding that, you know, we're not domiciled under quasi-national domiciles or municipal domiciles, you know, is definitely bigger than just having, you know, a claim or a case or anything like that. We're talking about inheritance and succession. which is true success. You know, you could get all the Federal Reserve notes you want. You know, can you leave it to your descendants without foreigners intervening and then saying, you know, this person is going to get this person is going to get that. You know what I mean? And then they take their cut off top type of thing. Like, can you pass it down without foreign interference? That is definitely through a sign of success or succession. And again, those customs of inheritance, you know, have to understand in the law of nature for Aboriginal people, opposed to the systems that they have in place for those who are coined Negro, black, and colored, you know. You can have all the finance, all the great material things, but if you was to go tomorrow without question, without having to deal with a foreigner at all, can your children receive that? Can your family receive that? That's the truest sign of freedom and success. As far as titles to the land, definitely in the Free National Appellation and correlates. So, again, that's just my peace of mind on the subject of title to the land. And with that, I respectively yield the floor.
All righty. Islam. All right. And with that, what we're going to do is we are going to begin to take callers. We got 34 minutes left to the live internet feed. What that means is at 11:30, the internet feed is going to go down. If you can at all, you want to call 347-945-5899 to listen to the last hour. If you're unable to get in, wait until after 12:30 and download the archive, and you will be able to listen to the last hour. Alrighty, so our first caller is caller 412-969.
Islam.
All right, caller 412-969. You have feedback.
I do now? Yeah, I just muted that out. Now I got feedback, baby. Okay. Islam. I took the advice of Nationality and more or less studied on the proclamation, judicial proclamation, and also the name correction. And it took me about 2 years, actually, before I sent my paperwork into and a need to sign off on as our vizier and everything. And I was clear about the fact of not needing it to be notarized by anyone else other than her as it stands right now. I appreciate the service that she is doing for us Moors concerning this matter, making sure that we have our gray seals on our documents. And as I've been explaining to young Moors around me, when it comes to this whole notarizing thing, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but anything that we need notarized, we just simply send it off to you and the need to be notarized, correct?
Well, there isn't much really that needs to be sealed because we don't notarize. A notary is simply someone who is able to read or write. But there's not much that needs to be sealed because the seal is for government issues. It's not for individual issues. It's for issues that affect the collective family. So there is not much that really needs to be sealed.
Okay. No, I was just curious on that. And like I said, it took me about 2.5, almost 3 years to go ahead and send in those 2 documents to get, put the world on notice of who and what I am. However, I've been operating in my capacity as a Moor ever since I've learned the information and without paperwork. So, but now I feel, put it on the record because I truly understood each page of the judicial proclamation as well as the name correction. And it just took me some time to make sure that I was clear on everything that was there and that I agreed to everything that was there before I, sent it off and before when I receive them back, send it off to the principals that are, the heads of states as it was said in this broadcast.
So, but I appreciate that service that you provide. That's pretty much it.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for your call.
Islam.
All righty. Peace and love. All right. Caller 901-626. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maxim.
Islam family, this is Mario L. Bay, Northwest of Maxim.
Wow.
How y'all doing, family?
Wonderful.
Well, I just wanted to commend you all for the wonderful show y'all put together every week. I really didn't want anything. I'm just sitting back listening, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. So I'm going to yield the floor with that.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Islam family.
All right.
Islam.
Yeah.
All right. Caller 410-908. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maxim.
Islam. I'm in the Maryland.
Near Maryland.
I live in Maryland. Yes. Excuse me if I start stuttering. I've been diagnosed with a couple of things, so I start stuttering sometimes, and I apologize ahead of time.
Not a problem.
I just want to make sure I understand everything because I'm in the process of changing my name. And I was told that correcting my
your
name.
Appellation. Your appellation.
Correcting your appellation.
Yes.
Appellation. Well,
actually, she's correcting her name and applying her appellation. Because I've had people ask that. Yeah, she's right, because you have a name now, and now you're going to correct it to a free national appellation.
Yes, ma'am. I was told that once I changed my appellation, I would have to go to the courthouse and change it in their records. But you saying no, I don't have to?
County courthouses are not they don't have records.
Okay.
By definition, they are not a court of record. There is nothing that says you need to go to a court unless, and even if I was going to say, unless you got an issue that is currently going on, but even with that, that's all you got to do is ex-rel.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because I'm in the process of changing my appellation, and so is my daughter. So I just want to be clear so I can explain it to her.
Well, let me just say this. How old is your daughter?
My daughter is 25.
All right. The best way for you both to be clear is to not listen to other people. Go to Arvin Bay Publications, National Identification page, go down to option number 13, and read it for yourself. And I would also suggest that you review the samples because they're there to help people. Don't rely on anybody to tell you anything. Go to the site and read it for yourself because I'm going to tell you right now, I get a lot of documents from people, and I can see where one person thinks they know what they're doing, and they will advise 6 people, and I have to send back 7 wrong papers.
Okay.
Where if they had just went to the website and read it for themselves, I probably would have ended up sending back 1.
But I don't know if the sister here. I mean, as far as the procedures and the process, definitely
really that whole page, the National Identification Card and Proclamation page ought be read as far as the specifics on how to and where to and what to do to get with the paperwork and having it sealed and sent back to you. You'll find the specifics on those instructions at Section 13, and then at the very bottom of that very same page is where you'll find the application if you are interested in the ID. And that's down at the bottom of the page as an encouragement that one would read the entire page, because it starts out with, if you're not in the national mindset, don't even apply. But once you read that page, it'll give you necessary concepts and information needed, you know. So, but I think your question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is more how do I do this and how do I explain it to my daughter. I think you're talking about how do you explain what this is really all about, not necessarily the specific. Am I right?
Okay.
Am I right? Or are you just asking for the instructions to send in your paperwork?
Okay.
Well, you know,
I'm trying to get my words out. I apologize. I'm trying to get my words out.
No, it's all right. Don't apologize. We understand completely. But you know, you also might want to look while you're thinking, and as soon as you're able to speak, please do. But you might also want to look into some astrologics where Uranus is in your sign, and what house it's in, particularly and especially if it's in the third house, communications, because that's what really makes people stutter. It can. And but that's something we can do. Hopefully you can maybe email something or just find out where Uranus is in the sign. But aside from that, my question to you was, were you looking for the specifics of instructions, as Anna Eve was expressing that a lot of people do not read Section 13 when it comes to the directions of the process? Or are you saying, how do I do this, what is this about, and how do I explain it to my daughter?
Okay. We got identification cards from someone else. We're ready. We're trying to get. We don't like what some of the stuff that she be saying or the method that she goes about. So we're backing away. So we already have changed our name with her. Okay.
No, you changed your name with your affiliation, your name.
I apologize.
No. I'm saying you've done it with yourself. See, it doesn't matter how many identification cards you have, quote unquote. Like if you had or a membership card or whatever like that, you know. So you've already corrected it with yourself. What you're saying is you went through a process with someone, and you're not really pleased about some of the things that it says, that it's saying that you're making a claim for, or that
somebody, okay, another person that was dealing with this person said that we needed to go to the courthouse and file our what we already done with our name change.
Okay.
And from what I was hearing from you, we don't need to do that once we already declare our name change.
No, because and you just said they're not a court.
Right. May I ask a question though? When he or she told you to do that, what were the circumstances? Did you have an open case at the court or no?
No.
No.
My daughter was trying to clear. She's trying to clear some stuff up with her license because me and her was traveling and enforcers stopped us and gave her a ticket. And this other person told my daughter, just go ahead and pay the ticket. She did that, but she wanted to change her name on her ID card, on her driver's license right now, and they told her she couldn't do that. And then when she asked another Moor, they said, no, you have to go to the courthouse and change it. Give them your new name.
That's not true. That's not true. Trust. First of all, what I would suggest that your daughter do is look. That's a void instrument. That driving instrument. It's void. All right. And what I would suggest she do is to study. Don't make any changes until you're ready. Until she is ready to defend it. Meaning she knows enough law. She knows she can defend her position if challenged. All right. She doesn't need to rush and go and change anything, because if she's challenged, she's not going to have the necessary information to defend herself. It's just going to cause it's going to open a can of worms that's not necessary. We don't need to run. We can take our time and do this because we ain't going nowhere. All right? Don't let nobody pressure you or your daughter into doing anything you're not ready for. Because there are Moors out there that will do that. I experienced that back in 2008, and I'm just happy that I was able to take the necessary time, which was a minimum of a year, because I had somebody come and tell me to go look up certain words. These words are on the RV Bay Publications website, by the way. Go look up certain words. And I'm telling you, once you start looking up these words, you will realize that you don't need to run it, because they get you all scared. They get you scared and panicked, and they get you feeling like, if you don't go and do this, somebody's going to come and bust your door down and cart you away, and nobody will hear from you ever again. That's not going to happen. I'm here to tell you it's not going to happen. I got into this particular information in 2008. It's 2015. Ain't nobody bust my door down and come carted me away yet. And it ain't going to happen. Take your time. Do the necessary studying. Ask the questions that you need to ask. If you need to call back here every Tuesday to ask questions, you do that. But you be comfortable with what you're moving into. There's no rush. We all going to be here. All right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
so
most
much.
welcome.
Right, exactly, because I was going to say that the answer to really whichever position you're in was to just read and study for yourself. That was what I was going to say.
Well, I read and I study, and she's been reading and studying along with she's in school also right now to become a nurse. So she studies as much as possible.
All right.
As much as possible.
Right.
But she studied because she knows that she should be able to travel the road without being harassed.
Mhm.
She knows she has the right to travel.
Mhm. And that's the interesting thing. we all know this now, and then we realize just how much we've been, we're being suppressed from those things. So it's causing an agitation with everybody. And I know that if we collectively were to just start doing what we know we can do, it would kind of be over with overnight. So it's good that your daughter is young and she's getting that. So tell her to keep studying, and you do the same.
Islam. Thank you.
All right, sister.
Thank you again. Islam.
You are most welcome. Peace and love.
And one more thing to interject.
All right.
Just like we were saying in the beginning, keep close tabs on what Noble Drew Ali told you, because he took away a lot of the confusion by just telling you straight up what's up. So, for example, he told the Moors, all old business, leave it as it is, and all new business, do it in your free national name. Licenses are old business. Birth certificates are old business. Social security cards are old business. Any instrument that you got from any so-called corporate government is old business. So what happens now when you have a thought of Allah manifested in flesh that gave you instructions, and then you go against those instructions? You will receive your just rewards. And not all rewards are positive. But negative rewards are a reward because you're supposed to learn from your mistakes.
Just say one more thing, please.
All right.
I had another issue where I used my new name, and I wasn't allowed to go in the courtroom, or even the thing was my son's son was taken from his mother and my son, and because I gave them my new name and I refused to give them my my original name, I was not allowed to even to try to get my grandson, because they said they needed a social security number and they needed a name where they could research me. And I told them, I said, I'm not a part of your corporation anymore, so the name that I gave you is my name. So they would not allow me or my daughter to go in the courtroom with my son about getting his son.
Yeah.
So
what I would say is what I said earlier. Look, we have to look at the reasons we do things. We need to learn how to move within these. I don't like to use the word contract, because that's not what they are. We need to learn how to move within this system. So in a situation like that, where you're talking about a child, I would do what has to be done to get the child back. That's just me. Because I don't want these foreigners to hang on to that child.
The young lady's mother has the son, but she don't allow me or my daughters or my son or her own daughter to see the baby.
Oh, okay. All right. But you know what? That's because they're dealing with the condition of the child is the condition of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that one of the reasons they don't want to deal with you in your natural state is because they can't deal with you in your natural state, giving your free national appellation and your status. They're corporations. They don't have any authority over you. This is why they don't want more to come into this consciousness and declare their nationality and their status. That's why, because they make finance off of that. So they couldn't really deal with it. But the real deal of this is that the mother, you're representing the son who is the husband or father, as they say, of the child. But really what's going on with them is that they can just totally ignore you, absolutely totally ignore you, even if you did come into their venue being a citizen of or a member of their corporation that they call citizens of a corporation or citizens of the United States, because it's really about the condition of the mother. And so your son is not the mother. The mother is the one that's who they're dealing with. This is why sisters have to really wake up, because when the sister goes into their system looking for for them to help her do good or bad when it comes to the child, it's really about the condition of the child. Unless the mother is conscious and the so-called father is not, then they'll use the father against the mother, and that's what they're doing in there. And that's why they totally, they didn't even want to, as far as they said, they didn't want to hear from you because you're not the mother. You're not even
neither my son or my grandson's mother is conscious, and her mother
you mean
is
the mother
not
of the child?
Either.
They wouldn't let the mother of the child come in? Is that what you're saying? They wouldn't let the mother of the child come in?
They allowed the mother of the child, my son, and her mother to come in the courtroom. They would not allow me to come in the courtroom because I gave my I forgot what you told me it was. My new name.
Your appellation. My
appellation.
Yeah.
And I would not give them my old name or a social security number. So I was shut out of the courtroom. So was my daughter.
All right.
Right.
Well, the thing about
1 second. So just to prove the condition of the mother is that of the child. Just like on their side, same thing on your side. Because you're national, your daughter is national, so she's not coming in either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the condition of the mother is the condition of the child.
Of the child. Yes, that's right. See, the blood.
It's the same thing. Both sides. It's the same. It's the same thing going on. It's just that the status is different. One status is a national, proving the point that they don't have jurisdiction. They're admitting that they don't have jurisdiction, and they're admitting that they don't want nothing to do with anybody who says that they're Moors or whatever like that. Because really, they don't have jurisdiction. It's diversity of citizenship.
And we shouldn't be in there anyway, so that's really
shouldn't be in there in the first place. You shouldn't be in there.
Exactly.
Right? But they're not going to explain it like this. They're going to make you think that they're shutting you out of some jurisdiction that really you have nothing to do with. Because on the other side, the condition of the mother is the condition of the child. Mm-hmm. But we're not talking about your son's mate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're talking about her mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she was there with.
Yeah, because she's there too. Because her status is probably stateless, which makes her daughter's status stateless, which makes the child's status stateless. So everybody on that side is stateless.
Yep.
Mhm.
Which means that they're in the jurisdiction of whoever created that jurisdiction of statelessness.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they wanted information
up for
from
grabs.
And that's why they wanted information from you that proves that you're also stateless along with everyone else. And when you didn't have it, they're like, oh,
here's
well.
a disclaimer. Here's a disclaimer on that, like, because I said, you got to do what you got to do to get the child. Now, if everybody was of one accord, both sides, the mother of the child and then the son, if everybody was of one accord and the objective was, hey, I don't care who gets the child, just get the child out of their clutches, and if you were the only one that was able to do that, then you have and the only way that you were going to be able to do that was to give them that nom de guerre, which is the name, and the social security number. I'm willing to bet they're going to have you sign some papers. See, and it's all in the signature. It's the signature that brings contracts to life or kills them. So what we have to do is we shouldn't get bent out of shape because of the paper. What we need to learn how to do is sign them so that we're reserving all our rights, allodial.
Sure. And in that same situation, my fault, she's so right. In that same situation, when she did that, just looking at the true and divine way, and like you said, learning how to navigate within the system, or staying out of it in navigation. Like, she has so many claims for injury, first and foremost. Via the fact that they're doing this in the name of a, quote, state or corporation, county corporation, municipality, whatever. But when that woman said to her, you got to give me a name that I can research, or, you got to leave, or whatever it was of that effect. Like, first and foremost, it's a lot of ways you can go about that. Now, just look at the divine way, right? And then I'm going to get back to this law, no matter who you are, what you claim. But Asiatics, right? Noble Drew Ali said this is the uniting of Asia, and I'm staying on the subject. But when we look at our culture, it's something called self-luminous, which means known by no agency, like the understanding, the mind, or the senses, but by self alone. That's from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. All right. Now, you can make out a claim for First Amendment violations, violation of the Constitution, and Article 4 violations, whereas this is a law review by Julia Scheer Kushner, the right to control one's name. This is a adequate, shall I say, UCLA law review from 2009, and she's going into the fact that as of 2009, 46 quote-unquote states or quote-unquote quasi-national domiciles have no discrepancy, with someone legally changing their name by usage alone with no paperwork. Like, you don't even need paperwork. So it's good to have that to make sure that your claim is solid and tangible. But you got Article 4 violation right there, too, whereas majority opinion or fact or, acceptance is really law as far as, quote-unquote, states or quasi-national domiciles are concerned. So for her to say that you have to give me something that I want to accept or whatever it is, that violates your universal right, let alone those two rights that I was just referencing, but your universal right to self-determination. Like, all of those are violations, in conjunction with the fact what Anna E. was saying, Cujo was saying, my mother said, as far as the mother is concerned, that's what it is. But for them to block you because of that, you know what I mean? It's a violation on so many levels that you have a lot to study and counterclaim just off that fact alone that they said that. So So
in essence, that would be her position to take just for that discrimination. But when it comes to the issue that was before that tribunal, it was about the child, which was about the mother, and the reason all this went down is because the mother was not, the mother was in their jurisdiction. And that's why we say women got to really get it together, because it's really...
But the thing of it is, the mother or the father of the baby, my son or the baby mother, did not want her mother to get the baby because the young lady knew her mother would not allow her or him or me to see the baby. And
but the issue we're making is that it's the mother of the child that it's the mother of the child didn't want the other mother to have the baby, but the mother of the child, she wasn't in her right status either, so she just didn't want the other mother to have the baby. I mean, her mother, to have the baby. I said other mother. I meant her mother. Her mother is not declared national, and she's not a declared national. So the whole issue was the child was in this trap of jurisdiction because the mother of the child is not a national herself, and she would have stood until death do her part on her rights and liberties and the rights of which is described in the rights of indigenous people, because she would be Aboriginal and indigenous. So her argument was, I don't want the other mother to have it because she wanted you and the father, which is your son, and you, which is his mother, to be able to see the child. But she wasn't in any position to make any arrangements as such, because she is a ward of the state herself, and so is the child.
Okay.
All right. That's what we're saying. All right. I think you got it.
Right. Yes, Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty, peace and love. All righty, let me get back to my spots. All right, caller 972-839. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Maxim.
Islam. This is Abdul Malik Shakur Bey. Once again, in Northwestern Maxim. Good to hear you again, family, Rod, Nadia, Nishan, Cujo. Always a pleasure to hear my brothers and my sisters in the house giving out knowledge, lending knowledge that's going to help wake the people up. And most of all, I'd like to say no one can form a state or establish a government or government entity or agency at any time for any reason on any day that violates the law of the land. What the corporation state did and is still doing, they create ordinances, statutes, and codes which are not law. And with that trickery, the unknowing people are violated because they do not know what law is and what law is not. Unfortunately, those ordinances are usually described as violating existing rules of law enumerated in the Constitution to protect the rights of the people, and the rights are res judicata, because one has not read or does not enforce the law of the land and are not clear on their political nationality, status, and their domicile, which is a civil state. They do not know that. And to Ms. Ram, real quick, I'm going to let y'all go. When y'all were talking about, you and Cujo, when you mentioned about when those schools come up, and I remember when the time when I was going, they just entered into the activity. The only school you had stated that wore those uniforms and the one had the mother and father had to pay for them to go. Now they have taken over all the inner schools through Catholicism from the Roman Pope, regulated by the corporations which establish their townships, cities, and boroughs to make sure they're indoctrinate the Moorish children at an early age. Also, the ignorant and unknowing Europeans to introduce a European type of colonial corporate state indoctrinations of the natural people and to control land, mind, and body. Islam, Mo. Islam.
Bro. Islam. All right.
And you know what? It's interesting. He said control land, mind, and body, right? Because earlier I was on rvbaypublications.com and reading the letter and the correspondence between Benjamin Banneker and Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson, in his reply, he was mentioning about, I'm not quoting this verbatim, but if you read his reply back to Benjamin Banneker, he mentioned something about, I think he mentioned our skin complexion, and then he was talking about the integrity that we have the right to have in body and in existence, something of that nature. Pardon me. I got to refresh myself with that. But he also mentioned with body, which goes to show, that these aspects too have something to do with your existence, correlating to being in full life, continuing in both physical and civil existence. You feel what I mean? Like, so when he was mentioning, the integrity of body, and I trust before this broadcast ends, I'll pull up the exact quote or somebody will call in with it either way. That's really imperative to what was being said, among other things. And then he signed off, Thomas Jefferson signed off as a humble servant. You know what I mean? Like a humble servant. And we know the servant-master relationship, right? So Thomas Jefferson was a humble servant. Does that say about servitude? What type of servitude? But not to get that confused with just the divine right to serve, if you will. But I don't want to go too far off. But thinking of the word serve, I just, I see so many misrepresentations. Like people say they took an oath to protect and serve, but they want to do all types of constitutional violations, etc. It's just a lot that goes with that word, serve, servant, servitude, indentured servants, voluntary servitude, So I don't know. I think you have some more to add on to that, but I don't want to hold the lines up. I'll definitely get back to it. So,
Islam. All righty. Let's see. Let's go to our next caller. Caller 267-353. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexham.
Islam, as I seen very Northwest Mexham, giving honors to you, Ms. Rise and Cujo. Great show. And I just wanted to bring one thing that I was thinking about real hard, and we was talking about correcting our concepts in our mind. Is when we think of nationality, always think of the land and attaching it to the land, because the land, you can't make no new land, and the land will always be here, and everything comes from the land. Everything that we need, our building supplies, so much comes from the land. So always in our concepts, a nationality and who we are, stay attached to the land, because that's one of the other illusions to detach us from the land in our minds. When we in some of these tribunals, and one of the first things when you bring up nationality, one of these magistrates and things, one of the first questions they'll ask you is, what is your name? And then one of the second questions they'll ask you, and this is the test that it's a minimum test, but it's a test nevertheless that they put before you. The second thing is, where do you live at? What is your address? And if people don't understand how this zip code or this zone or these imaginary borders that they created to detach us from northwest of Mexico, from the land. One of the nicest questions that I heard in an answer or reply to that, where do you live at? The gentleman said that I live and dwell on the land, the same land that your ancestors, the same way that when your ancestors first came in off the boat and dwelled on this land. And that was before those imaginary borders. And I thought that was a good answer to that question before one of those magistrates there.
Yeah.
So,
you know what else could be said with that, Asim? Is, I mean, because, you know, you don't want to sound flippant and say, oh, I live in my body, because we do live in our body, but we domicile. If you use the word dwell, when you say where you live, you can say North America. You can say my ancestral estate. That's essentially what's being said. What you're saying is that we recognize this is an ancestral estate, and it's North American. It's truly identified by latitude and longitude. They put a venue on it. You know, it's like you said, a street. Where do you live? They're asking you, you know, you're going to say 505 5th Street. Then they're like, bingo, you're in my jurisdiction because we assigned that, you know. So
exactly.
The other answer would be, without even having to educate them, it's, as you're saying, it's how you answer that. North America, my ancestral estate. However, I take mail in care of. You know what I mean? Because the only reason they need to ask that is for the purposes of notice, if there was any notice going back and forth as to where you would receive mail. You know, be it general delivery, be it whatever. But that's why they're asking. But they're tricking you and asking you so that you can admit by your words that you're in their jurisdiction by saying, I live at 505 5th Street. That's what they want to hear you say. So now if you say, I live at 505 5th Street, you just took yourself away from dwelling or living on your ancestral estate. So that's a very good point what you're bringing up. We have to really start recognizing that we are many jurisdiction by answering.
Absolutely.
By the way in which we answer. I'm sorry. Yeah.
By the way in which we answer and understand that. And if we're not careful, how those answers give consent. So I just want to bring that, and another terrific show. I mean, oh man, you guys been bringing it on, especially about the solar, the winter on solstice. You know, the far as south and the far as north of the positioning of the sun. In those 2 times of the year that happened, you really brought that home earlier. So peace and love, family. I just wanted to get that energy and give some energy to
tune in tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow on the Wednesday show because we're going to really break that down as to what it is that's being celebrated so that people will understand. Because so many people say, I don't celebrate Christmas because that's the quote-unquote white man's holiday, you know, and then they throw the baby out with the bathwater when they say that because it's not at all. And we're going to show and prove that, you know, and so that people can have full understanding that they should be recognizing that, you know, all the signs are there. If we don't, we bring ourselves out of tune with nature because this is one of the season changes, you know, that the 4 season changes that we should absolutely be recognizing, and because we have lack of knowledge about that, you know, and the signs being the evergreen tree. I mean, that's because we have everlasting life, you know. Then they put the 5-pointed star on top of that, you know what I mean? And then if people who may not be able to tune in tomorrow or whatever, just to show on the site, there's this article I have on the holidays, holy days, because that's where holidays come from, holy days, page about Christmas and how it was being acknowledged. I'm not going to get into all of the particulars. We'll do that tomorrow. But the fact that it used to be acknowledged outside thing, I mean, literally. And what happened is European. Now, this is a documentary that I listened to a few years ago from them telling the story. The Europeans became so rowdy and drunk and, like that every year that they actually brought it inside and made it to be a private celebration. As you know, celebration is celestial vibration. That's where it comes from. But they made them bring it inside because of how rowdy they were. So it was always something that should be acknowledged. It's what they've turned it into, but the only reason they turned Saturn or what you call what is it, the Grim Reaper, because they talk about that. Is that Saturn, and they turned Saturn into Santa Claus. And if we don't know that, we rebuke the Santa Claus, which we should, but we don't hold on to the source and the origin of that of which we ought to be acknowledging. Mm-hmm.
Correct. So I've put it out to everyone, a charge out to all the aunts, uncles, grandmothers, and everyone who's listening now to listen tomorrow and have the children there, because they should be out of these public schools and things. And it would be a good idea to have the children sit around and listen to the show also, so it not just be for the adult.
And let me say too, which we'll get into tomorrow, that it does involve the celebration of life itself, and it was Saint Maurice, who's a Moor, who the statue of him is on in that same holy day. He just decided, hey, I'm glad that the sun decided not to fall out of the sky, not that it would, and move again and be born again. And so I'm celebrating the fact that we have life, that, life is everlasting, and began giving gifts. And see, a lot of people think that came from, some jolly old overweight, red cheek, European with a pipe in his mouth with reindeer, and that's a whole nother story about the reindeer who Rudolph with the red nose and how they led and all that stuff. But they don't realize that the gift giving came from a Moor named Saint Maurice. His statue's right. I got a picture of it, but the actual statue got damaged in all this time, and the lance that he usually had in his hand is missing from the actual statue, but it's still standing. It's still, there. So they don't know that came from St. Maurice. They don't know that. All they see is Santa Claus, because as the brother mentioned earlier, we go into their schools, they're cutting off all of the true history and teaching us these other things, and so now we're feeling something and we want to rebuke these lies, especially children, because they want to rebuke, because their ancestors are turning, they know something's wrong with this. But if they were to find out that it was St. Maurice and the reason that he did it, they would feel different about it. You know what I mean? Not that we're saying to celebrate it that way, because we're not. We're saying to celebrate it in nature and the universe as to what is really, really going on. Children should listen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it'll bring balance to the mind, to know the truth.
Yes.
So Islam, peace and love. Go ahead, Andy.
All righty, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Love.
All right, our next caller 804-921. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexham.
Yes, this is Azad Afron Bey calling from Northwest Africa, Mexham, near the Company of Virginia.
Perfectly said. All right.
Yeah, I was listening, and you all always have a wonderful call going on. Miz actually brought up a good point when he asked about our sons and our daughters, would they be able to sustain themselves if we're not around, especially if they don't have the knowledge of self. which is a good question. I mean, it made me think, and I'm still thinking on it, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer would be, as it stands right now.
Yeah, and because of that, that's why they step in with their probate courts and all of that stuff, and they take your parents' inheritance and turn it into something totally different that's probated and as was said earlier, and they skim off the top and all of that because we don't know. So it's good to bring it to light and get us to start the thinking, right?
Sure. That's what this is about, But that's what it is, and it's not so much. I mean, that matters too. But it's not so much whether they will be able to sustain themselves. Yeah, that's the point. But what I'm saying is, whatever you have, will they even be able to receive it to sustain themselves without foreign interference? That's what I was getting at. You know what I mean? As far as what you was just saying, the probate steps in, and this person is going to get 10%, and this person gets this percent, and we get 50%, and all of this type of stuff here. You know what I mean? As far as that succession of whatever you have, will they be able to receive it without interference or a European or somebody working for a foreign corporation having a say-so in it? And I say that because, this is what I'm saying. It's none of their business, really. You get what I'm saying? Except for us. Yeah, so my thing is that ability on its own merit, that's true success. To be able to say, this is yours without having to get a third party, especially a European, to say it. You feel what I'm saying? Or administrate that. That should already be in order. Without that, whatever you have, I don't know. We could talk about personal property, movable property, inheritance though, the land, a foreign European ought not ever have to have a say-so for competent beings, because what we comprehend is this. Yeah, the whole entire estate is ours, but there are certain rights of possession, you know what I mean, just for the fact that you possess this certain portion of land that, of course, your lineal descendants will too. Not one, but all of them. That's the possession. So, I don't know. It's a good question to ask and to think about, and to make sure that, the ascending generation, make sure decent is that their successors will be able to take care of themselves, in fact and indeed. But whatever it is that succeeds to them, can it succeed without foreign European involvement?
Mm-hmm. Can I say this? There's one way that people can know, because we know this first day, not for myself, but from a couple of people, that if your parent passes and say, you're in line to receive their inheritance or whatever they have, whatever that may be, the first thing they'll do is make you become an administrator under a contract, agree to be an administrator right along with them. And that's how they immediately take you out of the position of the inheritor. And a lot of people do it because they're like, oh, this is what they said I got to do in order to get the inheritance my parents left. So they just took you out of any natural inheritance state and made you become an administrator. Now you got to follow all of their rules, statutes, and regulations.
Right. Now, one thing. This is a big claim. This aspect right here too is a real big aspect of being tied to the land, especially the claim of the ancestors. And Mom, you could vouch for this. Biggest ways to claim the land and understanding on the private side of international law, right? And please don't take this the wrong way, family, everybody listening. Like, to have, like, let's say your family has 5 acres of land. Or better yet, let's say not even that much, maybe 2 or 3, right? Let's just say that. Let's just say that they had that amount of acreage. To have the family home, like that family house, like let's say your grandmother's house, you know, people lived there, and it was intended to descend or succeed to the family in general. One of the biggest signs that that's the truth is to have a cemetery on that particular portion of land. Now, granted, the whole entire planet Earth is our ancestral estate by lineal birthright, like when you look back at our ascendants. But I'm talking about like a specific portion, not to divide up this state. But let's say that your ancestors possessed this certain 3 acres personally for generations. The public cemeteries was not really ever a common thing like that. But I tell you this, in correlation with the fact that the ancestors were to rest on that particular land, is a claim that nothing can supersede as far as an ancestral estate. Now check it out. Okay. From quote-unquote Manhattan Island, you got, quote, graveyard, city streets that are built on top of graveyards. Chaco Bottom, which they call Richmond, Virginia today, was built on top of a burial ground. Woodbridge, New Jersey, what they call today, was built on top of a burial ground, among many other places. And these are our ancestors. This claim to the land, like, I mean, not just because of that, but that's one of the biggest signs that there's a killer land. And an undeniable possessory claim is having ancestors buried on the acreage, which you see very common in what they call the south portion of North America, even today, to this day, you know. So with that being said, you know, what are we doing to make sure that these things succeed to these particular lineal descendants, starting with our own, like, you know, in ours in the national perspective, because, of course, this is our ancestral state, national domicile, and in recognition of that, it's going to succeed to us regardless anyway. But the thing is, the practice of foreign Europeans having their a say-so in how it's going to succeed is, you know, an aspect to look at. And I say this in law's perspective, to be more successful. To be more successful, does it take getting the European out of those succeeding affairs? That's really what it is. Regardless of what you do or don't have, it could just be a couple of personal property items, you know, things of that, whatever it is. But whatever it is you have to for succession, you know, does the European or foreigner have to be involved with that? That's all I was really getting at. But whatever thoughts you provoke, I humbly respect that and yield the floor, man.
All righty.
I wanted to add because what happened with that, you know, when you made that comment, I just thought about my, you know, like I said, my sons and daughters and the other young lady that was on the call. You know, she was talking about how they're not conscious, and that is true. You know, I do share and stuff with my sons and my daughters and my family. You know, the biggest thing is if they're not willing to understand or understand what it is that I'm sharing. You know I hear you all say it all the time that we have to move on and we can't save everybody. So if something was to happen to me, my biggest thing is, just like you said, someone will step in, from the probate office or whatever, and they're talking to them and they know nothing about what they're actually saying. They're just agreeing, to get the proceedings going.
That's a national problem, ain't it? That's our national problem. That's why in all these generations we have a great part of why we have not succeeded or had things in succession to us. That's absolutely the problem. But the time is now that has to change, and it's coming with the newer generations, the young and yet unborn. But that's a very good thing for you to think about, brother, because what can you do? And I think that is really the problem. That's why we don't have. That's why it's disjointed. It's disunity. It's all of the things that continue to allow the leech to suck the blood, or the vampire to suck the blood, which is the bloodline, which is all of your estate inheritance. That's what it's all about. And
yes, and that's not one to add. I know you all have to move on, but my biggest thing is I was going over some researching and just looking at Virginia period, and I ran over some papers. It was talking about because when the other noble when I went to court with him that time, and the so-called judge or the magistrate or minister, when he said that he didn't work for for Congress or whatever he said he didn't do, he was basically saying he works for Virginia. So I look back at understanding that Virginia was called the Virginia Company. Actually moved from being London Company, and it talks about this guy, some guy named John, who came here in 1606.
John Smith.
Yeah, he came in 1606, and it just goes on from there, and it just started talking about how they had some people come over in 1641, and they were the indentured servants. They how they got them to come over from other countries to become free men and small farmers. And it said that 250 of them were Africans that arrived in 1610 on a Dutch ship. But it's just this whole thing, like I said, just going through all this research. I just want to share. I got this document, and it's called Race and National Origin Identification. It's Standard Form 181. It says U.S. Office of Personal Management. And it kind of puzzled me because I've been sharing it and showing it to other people. But it says, it goes over the different so-called races. So it says black, not of Hispanic origin. It says a person having origin in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Then I look down at the white, and it says a person having origin of the original people of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. And I'm just kind of puzzled because it also goes on to saying that they're from Angola, Egypt, Morocco. I mean, I'm just like, this is unreal how they are so-called calling themselves the original people.
Well, actually, they're not. They're not, because what you have to do is you need to go and you need to look up the definition of free white people, free white person, and you'll see that that's absolutely right. In fact, they're the black people, because if you read in the congressional records, black, Negro, colored refers to modern Europeans erroneously called white people because of their skin complexion. But it has nothing to do with your skin complexion. It has everything to do with your ability to inherit. And white, black, Negro is identifying those people who are not eligible to inherit. That's it.
For sure. But real quick, though, on the subject, a dude, John Smith, Captain John Smith is what they called him. And I promised to deliver this. But I correlated this in Are You in Denial Your Ancestry, Part 3. Now, if you, I don't know if you've been down to Shako Bottom before, right?
Yes.
We talked about that before. Like, the history is so open out there, it's just ridiculous. Like, I'm walking past signs. I'm seeing signs within signs. And down there, a train station. If you're navigating on the highway, I forgot which particular loop that is, but you can see all the flags of every nation on the planet in front of this particular train station.
Yeah, I mean, my wife took a picture there. We did not know what that was.
That was all the flags of the nations there. We have passed that in our travels, but I didn't know that was there. That was my second time there. And you can see the Moor's flag clear as day. Like, you can
go back to
see the Moor's flag. All of these are right in front of this particular train station. Now, hold on. Down in what they call Shako Bottom on, I think it's 15th Street, there's this sign. And I'm be sure to put this in the book. But right up the street from this sign is a Masonic lodge. But on this sign, it mentions Captain John Smith. What I want people to think about is, how is it that Captain John Smith was this same foreign European fighting the Turks across the Great Atlantis, right? But also the first one to be establish the first English settlement, you know, in what they call Chaco Valley now, the James River. You know what I mean? Like, this is the same dude, but he was a Christian in history. Like, in history, he's considered a Christian. Also, on this particular sign, they show with Virginia, you clearly see that this is a Moor trampling on a European, knocking the crown off. Like, this is right down in Shako Bottom. And it's
a Moor European woman. She was a woman.
Yeah, no, hold on. That's the origin of the emblem. But the emblem is there, right, which is modernized because the emblem was made by or designed or envisioned by Thomas Jefferson before the prohibition against, quote, states coining money. You understand? So before the Constitution affirmed this, quote, unquote, companies were coining, quote, unquote, money in the name of states. So in that particular area, he coined one in 1780, clearly with a pregnant Asiatic woman. And on the reverse side, you see another Asiatic male with a calumet or a peace pipe. But the woman, though, she's trampling on the tyrant, pregnant. You can see her breast. She got the sword and the spear. You know what I mean? Using the spear like a cane. But
that's all in the courts, too.
That's in the courts. But they bit that from Thomas Jefferson's envisionment of the Asiatic woman trampling on tyrants. Now, I went to a class. I had a sidebar with the sister, and she was telling me a brief story, and she was talking about a brief experience, but from just listening to her for a couple of seconds, what she said made so much sense, right? And this correlates with this sign. She said she was in the conveyance getting gas with her child in the back seat, and the brother came up trying to press her. But she wasn't trying to hear nothing because he didn't respect the rules of engagement. You never approach a woman with a child unless she says something to you, because you never know what extent she would go into protection mode. She could have had a firearm on her and thought he was trying to do harm, all of this. So when I look at that sign, to me, it symbolizes that natural element. But what I'm saying to you is this. Where you at in North America, there's so much history. It's so bold, they just put it out in the open. It's down there in what they call Shako Bottom or Shakwahanik or Shakwahoken. right by a place called Country Kitchen. I think it's 15th Street. I'm not sure, but the sign is there. And I'm like, yo, did we walk past this? You know what I'm saying? And they clearly tell you that Richmond was founded upon what they call the Thames, which is a borough of London. Like, this is a plaque out in the open, letting you know that Richmond is a London borough. It's not really the land. You know what I mean? And the same goes for Virginia, etc. So I say that to say that we have a lot of history here that's dead in our face. You know what I mean? And if you're walking in, you know, your third eye is not wide open. You're not using your two eyes to communicate or receive to that third, or let the spirit man know. You know what I mean? What you're using this body for is on a whole nother level. You can miss a lot of signs clearly. Like, and my thing is, like, they're so bold. They have a public plaque saying that Richmond is a borough of London, which lets you know they have no territorial jurisdiction. And you know what I mean?
But
so,
you know what that means? That means that it's just up to the natural people, to the Moors, to make their claim. They're not even hiding it. It's just that while we're being Negro colored black, you know, we're never going to be able to make that claim that they just put right in the open. But here it is. Right. This is it. And then we're not relating to it.
I wanted to add, because like I said, as I'm sitting there, the guy's name was John Ratcliffe, but this is what happened. This is the history that they was given. It says Virginia history, early settlement in the Virginia Company. It says Virginia was named after Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. At the first including of its lands, the whole vast area of North America not held by the Spanish and French, the colony of Roanoke Islands, organized by Sir Walter Raleigh, failed. But the English, because that's what they call themselves, the English. But the English soon made another attempt slightly further north. In 1601, James I granted a charter to the London Company, better known later as the Virginia Company, a group of merchants lured by the thought of easy profits and mining and trade. The company sent 3 ships and 144 men under Captain Chris Newport and some other Belgium Golding and John Ratcliffe to establish a base, and a tiny force entered Chesapeake Bay in April 1607, and the peninsula in the James River were found on May the 13th, 1607. So it just says the first permanent English settlement in America was called Jamestown, and it just said that they were granted to pull out in 1608, and then they sent John Smith to be the leader, you know, because they was going hungry, you know, had disease. So in 1608, that's when they sent John Smith.
Yup, they was out there freezing with no provisions. They had 0 provisions. So this is another part of the history that people need to understand. Like, they was over here starving, waiting on, quote, English ships to come with goods. That's why they had to negotiate with the Aboriginals. And then I'm going to yield the floor here. The same captain, quote, unquote, Captain John Smith, was fighting Moors across the Great Atlantis. So keep that in mind. And I yield the floor because I know you was about to say something.
I just want to say one thing. You said that in this writing, they tell you that the people, who are the people, what did they call the people who were coming over on the ships to work?
They were called English, the English.
No. The people that was coming over, they were indentured servants, weren't they?
Oh yeah, the indentured servants. Yeah, the indentured servants in 1640.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
In
now,
1641.
would you have? Yes, in 1641. See, because we think that the Duke of York had already come over. He was on his way over. I think he took over New York in 1640 or 1660. I can't remember when he got the charter from his brother Charles II. But whenever you see the word English, that's been altered because the English people is the indentured servants. Those were the slaves.
That was 1652.
They had they were coming over here as slaves. So the people that was bringing them are the brutish Moors, but what they did when they started translating this information, that's why you got to look at the timeline, is they replaced the word British with English. So now you think you're talking about English people who came over here when in fact you're talking about the British Moors who came over here. So you just got to keep that in mind when you're reading. Whenever you see the word English and you're looking at like the 1700s, and they speak as though these were nobles of Great Britain. There are no English nobles of Great Britain because English, the word English is referring to the hybrid. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you see that, they've tampered somewhat with the information.
Yeah, I see they call it. They said most white settlers were, and I have to spell this out because I know I'm gonna mess it up, but it's ANGLICAN, and it's not that hard to say, but it's just
Anglican.
I think so.
Anglican.
Mhm.
They call them Anglican, Anglo-Saxon, but it don't matter what they call them. They were modern Europeans. Those were the serfs.
But that's England also. See, England is Anglo-land, land of the Angles.
Mhm. Because I didn't know what that was, and I was going to look it up, but you all kind of cleared it up for me.
Mhm. Yeah. That's still the modern Europeans who were enslaved. Not really enslaved, but they were. The British Moors treated them horribly. That's why the Moors over here, advocated their not just their freedom, but their recognition as a people, and helped them to establish their nation. That nation being the United States of America. That's why no one of Asiatic descent or African descent can be a member of the United States of America because it wasn't established for us. That nation does not identify the Moors, whether you know it or not, whether you know you're a Moor or not. That nation doesn't establish it's not for any Moors. But with that, we got like 2 more callers, and we got like 10 minutes. So I thank you so much for your call, and keep on studying the history because it's absolutely telling.
Thank you.
All right, peace and love. All right, we got caller 901-734. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maxim. You got like 5 minutes.
Islam. Can you hear me? Islam.
Islam.
I was calling for the Northwest at Maxim. This is Tino out of Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County. I just wanted to thank you for replying back to my email relating to networking in my area. But Brother Mario, he showed me much love when I met him. So I just wanted to thank you for networking.
You are most welcome. I'm so glad you guys were able to hook up.
Yes, ma'am. Islam.
All right.
Thank
Islam.
you.
Peace and love.
Peace. Love.
All right, and now we got Brother Bakari, Islam.
Islam, good evening.
Hey,
Hey, Mom.
Peace, Noble.
How you feeling this week, Brother Bakari?
We got Chick Grammy waiting, bro. We got it waiting.
I feel a lot better, you know. I feel much better, and I thank you for sending that information. It's I focused on that, and thank you so much for that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you guys up. I just wanted to call in and say, thank you so much for being there. And recently, I just wanted to share with the family. I met with some Moors out here where I'm at, and we had a little get together where we brought vegetable meals, and we talked, and we shared information, and it was very nice, and hopefully things will continue to move in an upward trend. And along those lines, I wanted to just camelback off of what Roswell Meyer said. There are a lot of Moors that just aren't, putting in claims. And it's not going to happen by itself. Like you can't build, like one man can't build a barn. Like you can't till a field by yourself, just one man just can't do all that work, so until Moors are active and doing things lawfully, a lot more of us are going to be harmed, and we're going to be easy to be picked off because we're not doing certain things that that can really make a difference. So anyway, wonderful show. Thank you so much for being here, and I feel a lot better this week, so I'm just going to double up on that.
All right.
Just the ability. I just want to say just the ability to meet with some other individuals has brightened my days up a little bit. So that was good. Islam.
Yes,
all right. All right, our last caller. Last caller, caller 706-424. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maxim. You got like 2 minutes.
Islam. This is Brother J. Bay at Northwest of Maxim. I, too, wanted to add that I have been listening, and I have really enjoyed the show. What I wanted to add in was to the discussion about the information and signs being out in the open. I had a couple other points I wanted to add, but the time is short, so I'll be straight to the point to get to my main point. The other night, I was perusing the airwaves, and I ran across an old Western from the 40s called Tulsa. And it had to do with the ranchers and the early establishment of the oil companies in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And but there was one scene in the movie where a modern European was speaking to a Mexican brother about whatever they were talking about, doing some deal. And the Mexican brother said out of nowhere, he said, before you Europeans came to this territory, my people in the South had plantations, libraries, and universities. And they went on with the conversation. And that just blew me away, because I said, did these people just tell the truth in the middle of this movie from like 1941? and they just dropped that bomb and they moved on. So later in the movie, they had to get leases for the land to drill the wells on, and they called together the people that lived on the land, the owners, and as they were coming in, they were so-called Indians, and another modern European said, out of his mouth, out of the blue, "Oh, what is this? A meeting of the tribes?" And some other Europeans said, "Yeah, it's the 5 civilized tribes of the area. We have to meet with them." And I said, again, they just dropped the bomb. And I backed away from my television because I have some visual problems. I said, are my ears deceiving me? Are they telling the truth, plain as day, in this Western from 1941, and nobody picks up on this? 5 civilized tribes. They're talking about leasing the land. And the brother just said to the south, we had plantations, libraries, and universities. And I just wanted to add that to the discussion about the information being out in the open. And because time is short, I will yield the floor if you guys want to add anything to that. And I thank you guys.
All righty.
Yes,
thank
they
you so
told
much
the truth. Yes, they told the truth, and it's right
They've
back
been
to what we
telling
said.
the truth.
It's just that they
been
knew.
telling the truth.
Yeah, but they know that we don't know. Like Yeshua said, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. So it's a matter of, it's just like all that information was talked about Shaka Bottom, which is what they call Richmond now, and all other places. It's not hidden. It's just that we need to claim it.
Wow, that was wide out in the open.
Yeah,
wide out in the open. We walked that same path together at the same time. You know what it is. You know? And following up more on the jurisdiction is Shakwahoken. And it was a slave mart right there where they used to sell. I got the picture. Y'all walked ahead of me, and y'all was like, where he at? I took pictures of that whole market where they said it was a slave mart. You know what I mean? And they got a bell that's shaped just like the Liberty Bell. And they have rows where they sell fruit and things of that nature in the summertime now, which is where the quote-unquote slaves, will be sold on the market. You know what I mean? With a same bell as the Liberty Bell. We was right there. And then check it out, because all of this is not going in the book, but check it. Right there they have 2 statues in the front of the market off Main Street, which are bulls, because they use it as a farmer's market now. And we know that astrologically, the bull represents agriculture or the earth sign, the earth influence. There's so much history right there alone. It's ridiculous. Like, it's just ridiculous. We're talking within 2 blocks, but you talk about a 6-block radius, really. Come on, man. It's just too much history right there. Like, too much.
We got like 2 more minutes though left to
not even. We don't even have a minute.
Let me just say this. The brother mentioned plantations. This is further proof that the original plantations and the original servants or indentured slaves were not us, but were them. Islam.
Check us out tomorrow. What's Heritage and History School, 7:30 p.m. Rosmarie Bay will be doing an awesome lesson